Just a few weeks ago, Oscar Piastri looked untouchable calm, calculated, and consistently fast. The Australian sensation was steering McLaren towards what seemed like their first driver's championship in over a decade. But Formula One never stays predictable for long. In the heat of the season's final stretch, everything has changed. Piastri has lost his lead for the first time since April to the man sitting across the same garage, Lando Norris. And now, the entire paddock is asking the same question: what's gone wrong? In the aftermath of the Mexico City Grand Prix, where Norris dominated and Piastri finished nearly 40 seconds behind, the young Australian didn't blame luck, setup, or strategy. Instead, he dropped a quiet but shocking statement, admitting that he and McLaren need to analyze the recent changes made to his driving style. What exactly does that mean? And why does it sound like Piastri is hinting at something deeper inside McLaren's garage? Stick around, because what's really happening between Piastri, Norris, and McLaren could redefine this year's championship battle. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, because this might be the turning point that decides who becomes world champion in 2025. The Formula One championship battle has reached boiling point. After leading the standings since the end of April, Oscar Piastri's grip on the 2025 title has finally slipped, and the timing couldn't be worse. In just 5 races, the Australian has gone from championship leader to chasing his own teammate, Lando Norris, who now holds a narrow 1-point advantage. With Max Verstappen closing in from behind, the pressure on McLaren's young star has never been higher. But what really caused Piastri's sudden drop in form? And is there more to this story than meets the eye? In Mexico City, where the thin air and searing heat turned the race into a battle of endurance, Norris shone while Piastri struggled. Starting from 7th, the Australian immediately lost ground and spent most of the afternoon stuck in turbulent air, unable to unleash the MCL39's full pace. By the time the checkered flag fell, he was 40 seconds adrift of Norris, a staggering gap inside the same car. The internet quickly erupted with speculation. Was McLaren secretly backing Norris in the title fight? Had the team made subtle setup decisions that favored their British driver? Yet Piastri's own words painted a different picture, one that was perhaps even more intriguing. After the race, he admitted that both he and McLaren needed to analyze the changes made to his driving style, particularly after a difficult run of form in Austin and Mexico. He spoke candidly about needing to experiment with a new way of driving, saying that what had worked for him across most of the season no longer did. "It's required a very different way of driving these last few weekends," he said, "and trying to wrap my head around why has been a bit of a struggle." That comment opened the floodgates of interpretation. In Formula One, a different way of driving can mean several things, from tire management techniques to throttle modulation, or even the way a driver rotates the car through slow corners. Every driver has a natural style, and when a car evolves over a season, sometimes that style stops working. What suits one driver may not suit another. For Norris, who thrives in oversteery, low-grip conditions, the car's recent development direction seems ideal. For Piastri, who prefers a stable rear and razor-sharp precision, that shift could be a nightmare. McLaren team boss Andrea Stella confirmed that the team was working closely with Piastri to help him adapt, noting that he'd already made progress during the Mexico race, even if traffic and a late virtual safety car masked the results. In other words, the pace is still there. The challenge is unlocking it consistently. The concern, however, is psychological. Formula One history is filled with examples of intra-team title battles turning sour: Rosberg versus Hamilton, Senna versus Prost, Alonso versus Hamilton. And while McLaren insists there's a clean slate between its drivers after their clashes in Singapore and Austin, the tension is undeniable. Inside that orange garage, both sides of the team now have something to prove. For Norris, this is the golden chance to finally become a world champion to justify years of hype and heartbreak. For Piastri, it's about proving that his early season dominance wasn't a fluke, that he can handle the heat of a title fight and come back stronger from adversity. Every debrief, every setup choice, and every whispered conversation in the engineering room could tip the scales one way or another. But what makes this situation even more fascinating is how little margin for error remains. 4 race weekends, 116 points still up for grabs, and one single point separating 2 teammates who share the same car, the same garage, and the same dream to become world champion. The upcoming circuits, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi, will test every ounce of McLaren's internal balance and mental strength. Interlagos brings unpredictable rain and raw racing chaos. Las Vegas, under the floodlights, will challenge drivers with freezing night temperatures and slippery tarmac. Qatar demands brutal tire management and flawless concentration, while Abu Dhabi, the grand finale, will be the stage for a showdown that could shape careers and define legacies. On paper, these tracks might play into Piastri's strengths. The Australian thrives on high-grip surfaces and cooler climates, where precision, consistency, and calm execution matter more than wild aggression. If that pattern holds, Piastri could very well swing the title momentum back his way. The two sprint races in Brazil and Qatar bring 8 extra points that could make or break his championship charge. And as every champion learns, momentum in Formula One can vanish and return in a single lap, in a single pit stop, or in one perfect overtake. It's important to remember that Piastri is still only in his 3rd F1 season. The fact that he's leading a title battle inside McLaren against one of the grid's most polished, experienced, and technically gifted drivers is already remarkable. It speaks volumes about his natural ability, composure, and relentless drive to improve. His recent slump in Austin and Mexico doesn't erase what he's achieved this season. It simply exposes the razor-thin line between dominance and defeat at this level of competition. Those searching for conspiracies might be missing the real story. What's happening inside McLaren isn't sabotage, it's evolution. The car has changed, the conditions have changed, and now Piastri must evolve too. Because the true test of a world champion isn't how they perform when everything is perfect, but how they respond when it all begins to slip away. Still, the stakes couldn't be higher. If Piastri can rediscover the balance he had earlier in the year, the title fight will go right down to the wire. But if Norris continues his current form, McLaren could soon face an impossible decision: let both drivers fight freely and risk losing the title to Verstappen, or quietly back one of them to secure the crown. Either way, the next 4 races will define not just the 2025 championship, but the future direction of McLaren itself. Because in this kind of battle, there's no such thing as equality, only survival. And as the lights go out in Brazil, the question will no longer be whether Oscar Piastri can fight back, but whether he dares to. So, what do you think? Has Oscar Piastri hit a temporary slump? Or are we witnessing the first cracks in McLaren's perfect unity? Can the young Australian rise again and claim his first world title? Or will Lando Norris finally seize his long-awaited moment? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our latest videos.